The Pacific was a mirror that morning, so still that it looked like the sky had dropped another layer of itself and forgotten to move. Lieutenant Marcus Shade Vance of the United States Navy had been flying for 6 years, long enough to stop calling it beauty. Beauty got men killed. His Wildcat rolled over the glare, climbing through thin air that smelled of fuel and hot metal. Below him, 5 other fighters held formation, a perfect V of wings and sunlight, the kind of geometry admirals loved in photographs. "Eagle lead, this is Shade 1, you see that?" The voice crackled in his headset. Lieutenant Junior Grade Paul Madsen, 23, still talking like the world hadn't burned yet. Vance looked east, 8 small specks rising over the horizon, silver in the morning sun. He didn't need binoculars to know what they were. Zeros. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I see them." He could already feel the odds settling around him. The Wildcats were heavy and thick-skinned, built to take punishment. The Zeros were the opposite, featherlight, faster, sharper, built for men who thought turning and burning was the same thing as immortality. The Japanese pilots had a saying, "He who climbs, lives." Vance had learned his own truth the hard way. He who climbs, dies slower. "Stay tight," he said. "Keep your turns shallow." The formation tightened. The sea glittered below. The first Zero dove through the sun, a bright wound in the sky. Its guns lit up, walking fire across the lead Wildcat. Tracers stitched the wing, then the cockpit. The plane caught fire before the pilot could scream. "Jesus!" Madsen shouted. "Brake left!" Vance barked. Too late. The Zeros came like sharks. One sliced under them, flipped, and came up through the formation, spitting 20mm fire. Another pair crossed above, rolling into a scissor that boxed in the rear element. Vance yanked the stick, pulling hard. The G's pressed his chest flat. His neck screamed. He felt the Wildcat groan under the strain. The Zero flashed past his canopy, white scarf whipping. He twisted, chasing. His guns fired. Too slow. The Zero disappeared into the sun again, light swallowing it whole. "Shade 1, they're all over me." Madsen's voice was raw panic. Vance banked, eyes scanning. He saw the Wildcat spiraling, smoke trailing. The Zero clung to its tail like a shadow that had learned how to kill. "Hang on, Paul." He pushed the throttle forward. The Wildcat shuddered, coughing smoke of its own. The engine hated this. It didn't matter. He came in low, fast, saw the Zero's profile, the pilot's white bandana turning. He fired. Tracer lines cut the morning. The Zero peeled away, clipped the sea, and vanished in a splash of silver foam. "Paul, pull up." Nothing. "Madsen!" the radio hissed. Vance circled once. The sea was empty except for the oil slick spreading in rings. The smell of burning fuel reached him even up here. He looked east again. The other Wildcats were gone. The Zeros, too. He was alone. That night, back on the deck of the USS Cleveland, the air tasted like salt and grief. The mess hall was full of silence, pretending to eat. The kind of silence that didn't need orders to exist. Vance sat alone at a steel table, a half-finished cup of coffee growing cold in his hand. The sound of the ship's engines was the only heartbeat left. Commander Harper came in, face drawn tight, cap in hand. "You did what you could." "No, sir," Vance said. "I did what we always do. We flew the way we were taught." Harper didn't answer. He looked down at his hands, then said quietly, "You can't outturn a Zero, Shade. Nobody can." "Then we stop turning," Vance said. Harper frowned. "What the hell does that mean?" Vance didn't answer. He was staring at the reflection of the fluorescent lights on the table, lines of white crisscrossing like contrails. Later in his quarters, he couldn't sleep. The sound of the waves against the hull became the chatter of machine guns in his head. He pulled out a length of cord, parachute line, cut into 6-inch pieces and began laying them on the desk. 2 lines for his flight, 2 for the enemy. He moved them like chess pieces. The zeros always outturned him, always got on his tail. He tried a different angle. Instead of running, he made them cross. The chords met in the middle. He sat back. The logic was absurd. Two planes flying toward each other, trusting that the other man wouldn't blink, switching targets mid-turn so that each pilot defended the other's tail. It was madness. It was perfect. He tried it again on paper. This time he drew arrows, lines of sight, angles of attack. It worked. On the desk, it worked. He looked at the small drawing, the ink already bleeding into the paper from the sweat on his hands. It wasn't a tactic. It was a promise that no one would die alone again. He stayed up until dawn, sketching, calculating, drinking coffee that had turned to syrup. The ship's bell rang for morning watch. When Harper saw him on deck hours later, his eyes were bloodshot but steady. "You look like hell," Harper said. "I've been flying," Vance said. "Flying?" "In my head." He handed the commander the drawing. The chords had been replaced by pencil marks, perfect curves crossing in the middle of a page labeled Weave. Harper stared at it. "What is this?" "The only way we're going to live," Vance said. Two fighters flying toward each other. They switch targets mid-pass. Each covers the other's tail. The enemy can't follow both. Harper squinted. "You're telling me two men have to fly head-on, trust the other not to flinch, and then trade enemies in the middle of a gunfight?" "Yes, sir." "That's suicide." "Maybe," Vance said, "but it's better than murder." That afternoon they tested it. 2 Wildcats against 2 drones. Vance flew lead. His partner, Lieutenant Cole Avery, didn't like the idea but trusted the man more than the orders. "Ready? Shade? Let's dance." The planes took off into the wind. The ocean fell away beneath them. The sky opened like a wound. At 3,000 feet they spotted the drones, target aircraft painted bright red controlled from the ship. They flew in a lazy loop, oblivious to the humans about to invent desperation. "All right," Vance said. "We approach head-on. On my mark, brake hard, right?" "Roger that." They came in fast. The drones adjusted, turning to meet them. "Now!" Both Wildcats broke simultaneously, crossing paths so close that Vance felt Avery's prop wash rattle his wings. He rolled, leveled, saw the drone that had been on Avery's tail appear dead ahead of his gun sight. He squeezed the trigger. The drone burst into flame. Avery's gun spat light a second later. The second drone disintegrated. They pulled up, wings parallel, smoke rising behind them in twin corkscrews. For the first time in months, Vance laughed over the radio. "You see that?" Avery laughed too, the sound breaking in static. "You're insane, Shade, but it works." That night, Vance wrote it up officially. He called it The Weave of Shadows. He didn't care if it ever made a manual. He only cared that the next time the sky caught fire, no man would die without someone crossing back through the flames for him. The ocean south of Midway was the color of bruised glass that morning, the kind that promised violence long before it began. The carriers moved through it like slow beasts, their decks black with oil, steam rising from catapult rails. Somewhere below deck, in a compartment that smelled of sweat and coffee gone sour, Lieutenant Marcus Shade Vance was drawing circles on a map he no longer believed in. Harper had transferred him to Midway 3 weeks after the tests. The brass had seen his reports, heard his words. 2 planes fly head-on, trade targets in midair, survive together or die together, and called it reckless innovation. The kind of phrase the Navy used before it stole your idea and gave it to someone else. Now the war was here, and so was he. "Shade, briefing in 5, said Cole Avery, poking his head into the compartment. His flight jacket was already half-zipped, goggles hanging loose around his neck. 5 minutes to die, Vance muttered. Avery grinned. "Don't start that poet crap again." "Not poetry," Vance said, "just math." At dawn, they launched 12 Wildcats from USS Archer, climbing into a sky streaked red and silver. The Japanese had been spotted 200 miles north, coming in fast. Bombers escorted by Zeros, the kind of odds that made men invent prayers. Vance's flight, 6 Wildcats, was assigned top cover. "Shade lead, you have visual?" crackled the radio. "Affirmative," Vance said. "Targets 12 high, heading 180, 20-plus bogeys." He heard Avery whistle. "We're outnumbered 3-1. "Good," Vance said. "They can't miss us." The first contact came fast. The Zeros dropped out of the sun, a textbook ambush. The Wildcats scattered instinctively, everyone except Vance. He rolled left, eyes tracking the formation, feeling the pattern in their descent like music repeating a phrase. "Cole, on me." "Already there." 2 Zeros locked onto Avery's tail. Vance pulled hard across his line of fire, almost perpendicular. "Now!" Avery broke right. They crossed paths so close that his canopy flashed silver in Vance's eyes. The maneuver was pure muscle memory now, both men switching targets mid-turn. The Zero behind Vance suddenly found itself staring down Avery's guns. The second never saw Vance coming. Twin bursts of fire tore the air apart. 2 Zeros fell in the same heartbeat. The sky went from blue to chaos. Contrails twisted like spider silk. Radio chatter turned into overlapping screams and warnings. "Shade lead, there's too many." "Keep weaving," Vance barked. "Don't give them your tail." He banked left again, bullets tearing past his canopy. The sound was like hail hitting tin. He saw Avery diving, a Zero glued behind him. Vance dove after them, throttle full. "Cole, brake left on 3, 1, 2. The third count never came. A burst of tracer fire stitched through Avery's fuselage. The Wildcat lurched, black smoke vomiting from its engine. "Cole!" The radio spat static. Vance pushed lower. The Zero followed the kill, intent on finishing it. Vance lined up behind him, held his breath, fired. The Zero disintegrated mid-turn, its pilot ejected into the void like a broken doll. Avery's Wildcat leveled briefly, smoke trailing, then began to drop. "Pull up, Cole. Pull up." Nothing. He watched the plane hit the water in a spray of white foam and vanish. The war didn't stop for grief. 2 more Zeros were already climbing toward him. He climbed too. The altimeter spun. The Wildcat shook as it hit the thin air at 15,000 feet. One of the Zeros broke left. The other stayed on him. Vance rolled inverted, dove, then pulled up again, forcing the Zero to overshoot. The Japanese pilot was good, calm, patient, matching every move. They spiraled together through cloud and fire, 2 machines locked in a dance neither could quit. Vance's guns were dry. He had one trick left. He remembered the chords on his desk, the diagram he'd drawn that night, the weave. It wasn't meant for one man, it was meant for 2. He keyed the radio. "This is Shade Lead. Anybody copy?" Static. "Anyone?" Then a voice, faint, ragged. "This is Archer 5. I'm on your 6, Shade." Vance's heart kicked. It was Lieutenant Parsons, one of the new kids, the one who had called his tactics suicidal nonsense in the briefing. "Parsons," he said. "You see that Zero above me?" "I see him." "Good, stay with me. On my mark, we cross. You take my tail, I'll take yours." "What?" "Just trust me." There was a pause. Then, "Copy." Vance turned into the sun. The Zero followed, hungry. He felt the sweat on his palms, even through his gloves. The light burned his eyes until he saw nothing but gold. "Now!" he shouted. He dove. Parsons climbed. They crossed so close that their wingtips nearly touched. In that single heartbeat, Vance rolled out and locked onto the Zero that had been chasing Parsons. Parsons did the same. 2 bursts of gunfire ripped the sky. 2 Zeros fell. "Holy!" Parsons didn't finish. He just laughed, disbelief and terror welded into one sound. It works, Vance smiled without meaning to. Yeah, he said. It does. The fight broke apart after that. The Japanese bombers, deprived of their escorts, turned east. The Wildcats regrouped, battered, wings full of holes but still flying. When they landed back on Archer, the deck was slick with oil and sunlight. The crews cheered. Vance climbed down from the cockpit, legs shaking. His hands were black with powder and blood. Harper was waiting. I saw it, the commander said. The Weave. You pulled it off. Vance nodded, too tired to speak. You saved the fleet today, Marcus. He looked past Harper at the ocean where the smoke of dying planes still rose like incense. No, he said quietly. I just taught them how not to die alone. That night, the wardroom was louder than usual. Men drank, laughed, pretended the day hadn't happened. Vance sat apart, a single glass untouched before him. Parsons slid into the seat across from him. You know what they're calling it? What? The Vance Weave. He shook his head. No, it's not mine. It's everyone's. A line between two people who refuse to run. Parsons grinned. Doesn't matter what you call it, it saved our asses. Vance looked up. Outside the porthole, the sea was black again, calm, hiding everything it had taken. Tomorrow, he said, it'll have to save more. 3 months later, the manuals were printed. The Navy called it the beam defense tactic. Pilots just called it the Weave. Every time two fighters crossed in the sky from then on, they carried a piece of that morning over Midway. The moment when trust became weapon, when fear turned into choreography. And though Marcus Shade Vance would not live to see the end of the war, his plane was lost over the Philippine Sea in 1944. Every man who flew after him knew the truth he had written with smoke and fire. That survival isn't an instinct. It's a choice. One you make together.